All right, so a parallelogram. We're going to talk about just the basic parallelogram. A parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides. And you can just write the mark for it instead of writing the word parallel if you want to. It's right here, so you can write the word parallel if you like. Or you can just use the symbol for it. Now let's go ahead and mark this one. Now remember, we use just these little triangles. One triangle means those two sides are parallel, and two triangles means these two are parallel. You can color them in if you want to. You don't have to. Some people do, some people don't. They don't have to be awesome pieces of artwork. But make sure they're, little triangle shapes instead of hash marks. And hash marks means congruent. Okay? Now, you don't have to do it this way. Most people use one on the smaller side and two on the larger side. It doesn't matter. You can do two on the smaller side. It doesn't matter what you do. It's your world. Have fun. All right, measure each side. I've already measured these for you in here, so you're just going to write down what I have. This is 8 centimeters, and this is 8 centimeters. Here we have 5 centimeters and 5 centimeters. Measuring the angles, we have 60 degrees here, 120 degrees here, 60 degrees here, and 120 degrees there. So, by looking at this, before we even answer the questions, we can go through and make our special marks. We know that this angle and this angle are both 60, so we can put one arc mark. We can put 2, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to put 2 at the 120, because those two are equal to each other. Now 5 and 8 are both equal, congruent, so I'm going to put a little hash mark on the 5, and I'm going to put 2 on the 8. We always want to mark as much as we can. Let's look at the questions. What do you notice about each pair of opposite sides? They're the same. They're congruent. What do you notice about each pair of opposite angles? Now remember, opposite angles are diagonal from each other. Okay? So what do we notice about them? They are the same. They're congruent. And congruent is just an equal sign with that wavy line over it. Now, what do you know about consecutive angles? This is the one that throws people off. Consecutive means the next one. So like if you won consecutive games, you won back-to-back games. So what you want to do is imagine you're going on a walk. And you're starting right there. You don't have to draw this. But you're starting right there at 120 degrees. Well, if you walk down this road, what's the next angle? 60 degrees. Then you walk up this road, what's the next angle? 120. What's the next angle? 60. What's the next angle? 120. So consecutive is one angle after the other. So what are the consecutive angles? 60 and 120. Those are consecutive. Write that down. Those are consecutive angles. What do we notice about them? Well, if we add those two together, they equal 180, which means they are supplementary. We use that term most of the year. We can abbreviate it. Supplementary means adding up to 180. All right, moving on. Here we have another triangle. Parallelogram, sorry. What we're going to do now is, and you need to just do your best, if you want to use a straight edge like your book or something, a folder, try to make this as close to a perfect diagonal as possible. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put a T right there. That's point T. Those are both diagonals. The diagonals intersect at point T. That's where they meet. Now it says measure. I've already measured for you. And GT is 3.5 centimeters. And ET, the extraterrestrial, is 6 centimeters. So this one's 3.5 and this one's 6. Well, the diagonals are cut in half, which means this is also 6 and this is also 3.5. Now we have a special word in math that means to cut in half, and we've used this before. We have already this year bisected sides and angles. We've talked about bisecting a side and bisecting an angle, which means to cut in half. So if you have a sandwich and you're going to share it with your best friend and you cut it exactly in half, right down the middle or on the diagonal, when you do that, when you cut it exactly in half, you bisect that sandwich or that candy bar or that donut or whatever. But it has to be exactly half. Are the diagonals congruent? No, they're not. One of them is equal to 12 and one is equal to 7. Definitely not equal. Then it says measure the angles at each part, number 1 through 8. We're not going to worry about numbering. We're just going to go through and put them in here. So this one down here is 20 degrees. And this one right here is 40 degrees. Well, if we go back to a previous unit, we talked about parallel lines and inside angles, okay, alternate interior angles. This one is 40 and this one is 20. You can see how the 20s are alternate interior angles between the top and bottom. And 40 is alternate interior angles between the top and bottom. And if we talk the point G, this here is 85, and this here is 35. Consequently, this one is 35, alternate interior, and this one is 85 degrees. They are equal. Now, just for interest's sake, 40 plus 20, what's that? 60. 35 plus 85, guess what that is? 120. Look familiar? It's the same shape, we just added diagonals. And opposite angles are equal. Moving on. Just some reminders. This comes off that green sheet. It also comes off the front page of your notes. Parallelograms have two pairs of parallel sides. They also have two pairs of congruent sides. We've already done all those marks. Both pairs of opposite angles are congruent. We just talked about that. 60, 60, 120, 120. And the consecutive angles, we talked about that already also, are supplementary. You can just abbreviate that SUPPF. And the diagonals, we also just discussed, bisect each other. And just to remind ourselves, let's put the fraction half at the end there, just as a quick reminder that bisect means exactly half. So, let's play with that new knowledge that we have. Here we have opposite sides. We have a 20 and a question mark. Well, we know this side is equal to this side, so that's a 20. Over here, we know this angle is 145. We know this one's obviously smaller. You can just tell it's smaller. But we know those are consecutive angles. So we know that they add up to 180. So if we subtract the big one from 180, we will get the small one. Which means this angle here is 35 degrees. Because they must be supplementary. Okay? UK. This is a very important label. Maybe you can highlight. Where's UK? It's right here. It's also across the ocean from America, but that's something else. So, UK is 19. It wants us to find KW. Now, this is one of those ones where you got to pay attention. Is it asking for the part or the whole? KW is just the other part. And we know that diagonals bisect each other, so if this one, the black one, is 19, the green one is also going to be 19. Has to be. But be careful. It could have asked you, what's UW? In which case you'd have to double it and say 38. Next one, UI. UI is 21. UI is right there, 21. It wants us to find UW. Oh, wait, that's what I just warned you about. It wants us to find the whole thing. That's why it's good to mark on here. Highlight stuff. Use colored pencils. We know the small part is 21. We know this is 21. So together, doubled, that makes 42. Moving on. Which property? Okay. Well, we have opposite angles are equal. So if you look above, that's property C. From that little reminder chart above, that's property C. Opposite angles are equal. Then you just do the math. And we have done this before this year, so this is nothing new. We just set this one equal to that one and solve. Go ahead and put your arc marks on there to remind yourself. First thing we do is add 8 to both sides. 55 plus 8 is 63. To get x by itself, we divide. By 7, not by 63. So x is 9. And that's my answer. We want to even check. 9 times 7 is 63, minus 8 is 55. We got it. Bingo. Which property? Well, we have opposite sides here. Opposite sides, two pairs of opposite sides are congruent. That is B. We know that opposite sides are equal. So we're going to mark those with our little hash marks to remind ourselves. And then we're simply going to do the math. 2x minus 3 equals the other side, x plus 6. Subtract x from both sides. I get x minus 3 equals 6. Add 3 to both sides. Again, I have 9. It's always good to check your math. So let's plug it in. Plug it in here. 9 plus 6 is 15. Good. Plug it in here. 2 times 9 is 18. Minus 3 is, bingo, 15. Last two. Well, look at this. We don't have opposite angles here. We have consecutive angles. That's property D. Consecutive angles equal 180. That's our key word. Okay? What's the biggest mistake people make here? 4x plus 2 equals 130. Look at the angles. In your head, answer yourself, what kind of angle is that? That's an acute little angle. Look at this one down here. This is an obtuse angle. Is there any way an acute angle and obtuse angle can be equal? No, they can't. So I do not want to see this. Don't write this down, but I do not want to see this. Because that doesn't make sense. They are clearly not the same size. So don't set them equal. Most common mistake right there. We are saying this piece, this part, plus this part equals 180. That's what supplementary means. So our first step is to get rid of the 130. Well, or 132, doesn't matter. We can combine numbers. 4x plus 132 equals 180. We subtract 132, and that gives us 48. 180 minus 130 is 50, minus 2 more, boom, 48. Then when we divide by 4, we get 12. And the beauty of math is, again, if we plug in 12 right here, 12 times 4 is 48, plus 2 is 50, and bam, 50 plus 130 makes 180. Good to go. Last but not least, we have a couple diagonals. Which one is that? E, property E. And E says they bisect each other. So let's do some drawing and see what we got here. Vx is the whole thing. That's 32. Cx is just this piece. Half of it. So if the whole thing is 32, that means this is 16. And this is 16, which gives us 32. But we still have to find x. So we know 2x minus 4 equals 16. Half of the 32. Add 4, we get 20. Divide by 2, our answer is 10. And if we plug that in, 10 times 2 is 20, minus 4 is 16. Boom, we got it.